Today is the 22nd anniversary of September 11th, 2001. And it occurred to me that a lot of people on this app were not alive 22 years ago and might want to hear a firsthand account of what happened. And so even though this isn't my usual content, I decided that it was important to tell my story. I apologize for the crying. I hope I can make it through. On September 11th, 2001, it was a beautiful sunny day. I was sleeping in because I didn't have an early class that morning. I was a student at Parsons School of Design. I lived like 8 or 10 blocks from the World Trade Center on the corner of West Broadway and 4th Street in Tribeca in New York City. Our windows looked right out onto the World Trade Center. All of a sudden, I was sleeping and I heard a really terrible bang and everything was shaking. And we lived across the street from an open parking lot that had car lifts where cars would go in and, they would lift so that another one could come in underneath. And I thought, oh my gosh, a car collapsed on another car. Oh my goodness. And I realized it didn't seem like that should be so loud, but okay. I rushed to the window and I don't see anything wrong except I see everybody pointing towards the World Trade Center south. And I see, oh my gosh, the World Trade Center is on fire. So I call my first roommate who had already left for work and I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. What's going on? And I told her and she was in shock. I woke up my second roommate who was also in shock and we stood there watching the fire for a few minutes. And I finally called my husband, who at the time was my fiance, and told him what was happening. And he didn't believe me at first because I have a history of being a joker. And he finally turned on the radio and came down to be with me so I wouldn't be alone. It was crazy. Who could ever think that the World Trade Center would be on fire? That a plane would crash into it and it would be on fire. And it was awful. It was awful. It was awful to watch people plummeting to their death because that was a better alternative than being burned alive. And we could see that. We could see people jumping out. At first we didn't know what it was, but then we figured it out. It's also really awful to watch a tragedy unfolding and know that you can do nothing. I couldn't do anything. I'm not a first responder. Thank God for first responders. But it wouldn't have been a good idea for me to run into the fire at all. And it's not a good feeling to know you can do nothing, like literally nothing. And as we watch the day's events unfold, building 2 catching on fire, and then the buildings falling down, it's even more traumatizing because you realize there's less and less you can do. And once both towers fell down, it wasn't safe for us to leave anymore because the air quality was terrible. The visibility after the buildings fell down was 0. You couldn't see anything except for white. It was literally white. And you'd see people walking around covered white. They were just white, covered in ash. Finally, around 5 o'clock, number 7 World Trade Center fell down and we lost power. We had no electricity, no water. And it was very hot that day, so we couldn't stay. We had to leave. So the closest subway that was running was West 4th Street. We didn't have any masks. We took whatever we could carry and we left. And we thankfully had someplace to go, but it was not a good feeling to leave your home with only the things that you can carry. I think the hardest thing about watching this unfold is not my personal story that, I was homeless for a few days, but knowing how many people really lost their homes. Their homes were destroyed. But also our community where we lived were destroyed. People had to leave. People died. Businesses were shuttered. People lost their livelihoods. It was a real tragedy. And it wasn't an act of God. It was a human tragedy because some people hated other people. And the amount of hate that you have to hurt yourself in order to hurt other people is immense, and it's frightening. It's really, really frightening to see that level of hate. So, what can you do? You could say to me, hey lady, get over yourself. It's been 22 years. Go ahead. But I see the hate. It's not going away. It doesn't leave us. I see it on this app. I see it on social media. I see it in the world. We are so cruel to each other. And we don't have to be. We could be more kind. A smile, a reassuring nod, a scroll by on social media if you don't agree. And if you don't agree with somebody enough that you feel it's important to say something, why do you have to be mean? We can have disagreements without being cruel to each other. So I urge you today to remember the victims, to remember the brave first responders, who many of them lost their lives. To remember the other victims of this event. And be kind. Today is a great day to do a random act of kindness. I hope you can find something to do to be kind to another person. Just wish them a nice day, give them a smile, whatever it is. Because today, we all really need a little bit of kindness. And if you happen to see me today, I would love a little bit of kindness too. Because today is still really hard, even after all these years. To live with that memory is still really hard. Those images will never leave my mind. And I hope they don't, because if they did, I think I might lose a little bit of my humanity. Remember that we don't need to be cruel. I never want to lose that, actually. So let me know in the comments what you can do today to be kind to somebody else who might really need it. And remember that even if someone is cruel to you, you don't have to dish it back at them. It's probably not you. It probably has nothing to do with you. I hope you have a beautiful day today.